Well, it's garbage day in Scranton in the Hill section. And I want to say thank you, DPW. And that goes for every DPW across Northeast Pennsylvania. We put it out. You took it away. I'm telling you, you don't know how great it makes me feel when that garbage is gone. Absolutely love it. Great. Good morning, everyone. It is 9:22 on my Cordaro Jewelers watch on a beautiful but cold December 11th, year of our Lord 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, broadcasting today from the United States of America. I could prove it because my president was here. He started his next victory tour here in Northeast Pennsylvania the other night. It's also the place where the brave, like the veterans we salute today, thanks to our friend John Basiliga, and one of his great companies, Basiliga Hospitality. We lost them this year, but celebrate them today thanks to John. Gabriel Sosha, Scranton. Donald Ezrin, Clark Summit. Alex Kowalico, Simpson. John Frabel, Weatherly. Joseph Halsasak, West Hazelton. And Raymond Trudnak, Bloomsburg. The United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible, amazing, irreplaceable founding fathers, that government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. Not any of these things, but is nothing more than the necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom couldn't be parceled out to groups. It couldn't be controlled by government or government officials because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. If they use it to lie, so be it. We're smart enough to know the difference. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And with that essential preamble dealt with, we can gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. And we've got a special deal today. Not only during the 10 o'clock hour, we have my friend from Fort Dix. And that's the prison, not the Army base. Well, if we were on the Army base. He's got a book. We talked to him about a month ago, Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. And he tells his experiences in the criminal justice system and then in prison. And you know, the prison books, everybody says, are you going to write a book? Look, this is different. This is better. And I'm going to tell you why. He got a job as what they call the town driver. We'll go into it in depth with him, which is the guy, they trust him. They let him drive vehicles, and some of his duties were to take guys that were leaving, and Fort Dix is this huge prison complex, after 25, 30 years, 15 years in prison, and take them to a bus station, a railroad station, the airport, and he would find out their stories, and he wove their stories into his, and it's really, really outstanding. But we'll talk to him. He's actually in the studio, and he was a big fashion executive, and Aeropostale, a few other names that you'll recognize. We'll go through those, but he's got his own new line that we're going to talk about, and he brought me a gift, which I can't wait to open it. But we're going to have him, and then at the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to have Matt Birkbeck. Matt Birkbeck, he's a writer's writer. He's one of my favorites. He really, and I mean, of all time. He wrote The Quiet Don about Russell Buffalino, our local mafia Don that nobody knew, or most people didn't know how powerful he was. He then followed that up with The Life We Chose. That's Billy D'Elia, who was his henchman. Still around, still kicking. And he's got a new novel called The Wicked. And that novel, his first, is set in Jim Thorpe, which is a murder mystery. And he'll talk about his next book coming out in January called The Bookie, which I'll guarantee is a slam dunk. And then at noon, some of you were able to join us. I know the time and all that. You got to work, but some of you will join us. We're going to have a Q&A that I will host. The Bulldog's going to be there. By the way, Murph is going to be there. A lot of people were more interested in meeting Murph than me, and certainly in meeting the Bulldog. And so we'll all be there. I can't call it a round table because it's not a round table. And we're going to talk about their books, have you a chance to, some of our people are going to have a chance to talk to the authors and me, and we're going to have a great conversation 12 to 1. Looking forward to that. By the way, it's trunk sale day at Picardo's. I cannot wait to get there. I'm going to go have a cocktail and check the store out. I just like hanging around here. I was telling you yesterday, and I didn't realize it at the time. Cutie and I went there, and I got her Christmas present. And, I said, Cutie, you're going to wear the Christmas present, so why don't we go get it now? And then you can wear it during the whole holiday season. So she agreed, and we went and did it. And it gave me the Christmas spirit. That was the great thing about it. It gave me the Christmas spirit. I just got all lathered up, so I can't wait to get there again. Now, last night, I went down to Fox Hill Country Club, and there's a group of guys. They call it the Wyoming Businessman's Club, the Wyoming Business Club. And my friend Tim Urich invited me. He's like sort of I don't know if he's he's not the president, but he's certainly the MC for the event. And I'd gone to that before, and they gave me an award. It was all fun. It's actually hilarious. I tell you, if you want to join a fun club, that's one to join. And they gave me an award for my support of DEI and alternative lifestyles. It's an X-rated award. I can't describe it, but fun was had at all. But this Wyoming Business Club is over 100 years old. And as Tim says, they do nothing for the community. They just have fun. So that I did that last night. It was great. But all is well. I'm looking forward to talking to our authors. We'll talk a little politics this hour. We've got much to talk about. The glow is still on from Trump's visit. He really, I'll tell you, you could tell he was completely comfortable here. Not that he doesn't make himself comfortable everywhere, but he was really at home. And it was a great event and great for the area because we not only got to see Air Force One, we got to see the helicopter as well, Marine one, because he took the helicopter from Wilkes-Barre Scranton International Airport to Mount Airy. I was thinking about it, and I said, he's got to, no way are they driving, even though there were warnings regarding the roads, and traffic and all that. But no way do you want the President of the United States on the road for 40 minutes, So anyway, that went off very well. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today. And again, thanks to our DPW all over Northeast PA, getting it done in the cold, in the dark, and we can't thank them enough. We'll take a break and be back with our Veterans Tribute. Let's hear from our great sponsors first. our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our friend John Basiliga and his great Basiliga hospitality. It's the weekend. It is. And he's got 3 great bar restaurants. The Old Brook Inn, 307 Springbrook Township. When I tell you it's great, I was there a few weeks ago. I had the bone marrow and steak tartare appetizer. I'm thinking about it every day. The Far Street Tavern, reimagined neighborhood bar in the West Scranton, the Trips Park section of West Scranton, and the Queen City Tavern, downtown Oliphant. 3 of the best bar restaurants you'll ever go to. Fine dining, yes, they've got that. Atera 519, downtown Scranton. Absolutely gorgeous. The service is outstanding. The food is top shelf. Downtown Wilkes-Barre, the Stegmeyer Mansion. It's like going to Newport and they serve you an amazing meal and fantastic cocktails. The Stegmeyer Mansion. And it's Thursday night, Sergei's, the nightclub, right beneath Atera. That's open. It'll be banging tonight. Scranton Art House, best place to watch a movie. Adult beverages, full menu, full bar. Watch a movie. Comfortable seats, the whole package. Gabriel Sosha. He's from Scranton. He was 77 when he passed away November 29th. He was at the Gino Murley Center. Preceded in death by his wife of 47 years, the former Mary Louise Vitale. Gabriel was born in Scranton, graduate of West Scranton High School. He went on to honorably serve all of us in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. Prior to his retirement, he was employed by RCA, Thompson Electronics. He loved to read. He loved woodworking, cooking. He also enjoyed martial arts. He's very proud of his Italian heritage. Surviving his son Stephen, daughters, grandchildren, great-grandson, sisters, nieces, nephews, and other family members. Gabriel Sosha. Donald Ezrin. He died December 1st. He was from Clark Summit. Born in Philadelphia, the beloved son of the late Sidney and Edie Hossman Ezrin. He was a proud graduate of Coral Gables High School, Florida, and went on to earn his bachelor's degree in education from the University of Miami. He served his country with honor, achieving the rank of captain in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. After military service, he built a big-time career as a hotel manager, lending his leadership and warmth to numerous hotels throughout the country. In retirement, Donald found deep purpose in giving back to others. He was assisted in running the Prostate Cancer Awareness Support Group in Northeast Pennsylvania. He cherished the simple joys in life. Left to cherish his memory, his loving wife, Lisa, his daughters, nieces, nephews, and other family members. Donald Ezrin, our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. I'm telling you guys, the weather becomes, I get choked up doing these veterans tributes, and then I have to do the weather. It's not exactly heavy lifting, but, it's not important. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, partly sunny and windy, snow showers, 27 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, 15. Friday, partly sunny. It'll get up to 30. Saturday, partly sunny. Looks like a nice day, 35. Sunday, colder, breaks of clouds and sun, chance of flurries, 25 degrees. Murph tells us the Coasters, they recorded their hit Charlie Brown with saxophonist King Curtis, Murph tells us. And Murph's going to be here today. Everybody's excited. They don't know the man behind the curtain who does the music for the program. We are excited to have him as well. So I didn't follow the news much yesterday because it was just a busy day, and we have our authors event today. But suffice it to say, the Democrats are looking for the next fake issue. And so much of the Jeffrey Epstein, you remember that? You almost can't remember. And in fact, they hope you can't remember. They're blaming Donald Trump for inflation that Joe Biden and their policies caused. It's insanity. And they're trying to play you for rubes. Now, there's a number of you, and I know we got a lot of Democrats listen. We've got a lot of dummy-crat voters and left-wing lunatics listening. And we love you. I really, and I'm not even kidding. We do. We feel sorry for you, but we love you. And many of them want to be lied to. They want to be fooled. I don't understand it. I ask every day, please, somebody call in and explain to me why you want to be lied to. But the most of the left-wingers who call believe everything they're hearing. It's really remarkable. But listen, keep listening, and maybe it'll kick in at some point. But the great Rush Limbaugh, and he says liberalism, we're so far beyond liberals at this point in this country. These are left-wing crazies. The entire philosophy of the Democrat Party has gone left-wing loon. And liberals are people who are open-minded to ideas. Their job wasn't to attack people. It was to provide an alternative to the way things were done. And in some cases, they were correct. In some cases, they were not. And a classic liberal would be open to that. I present to you Bill Maher. We play cuts from him a lot because he gets a lot of this. And he's open. He went and met with Trump. He gets a lot of this. And but for the rest, I don't get it. I really don't. And City of Scranton. We've got a left-wing lunatic mayor, and she's running for Congress. We announced she was running for Congress while she was running for re-election to mayor. I mean, and she's the entire left-wing lunatic package, the whole thing, open borders, criminals are oppressed, gender mutilation of our children. I mean, the whole package. She's all in. That's why they love her. That's why she's going to have millions of dollars to spend against Rob Bresnahan. And she started her attacks now, and they're so predictable, I could write them for her. they're just what everybody says, the whole cult. They call us a cult on the Trump side. Well, we disagree. We're free thinkers. We really are. You look at the Democrats, everything's lockstep. And I'm not talking about you normal Democrats listening. You know who you are. But they just have to be defeated time after time after time because they're not going to go away because they crave power. They crave recognition. They crave control over people's lives. You notice what we say, for their own power, but for their own comfort is one of the things we say as we open the program. And they want to control others. And obviously for their own benefit. We know that. But that's the deal. I mean, the fight, we'll play, as you know, very often, Leave on Helm. The battle is over, but the war goes on. And we've been saying that since the November election. This thing, and nobody got out to vote for the Republicans. Turnout was horrendous, particularly in places like New Jersey and Virginia, where huge races were and consequential races were happening. And if you look at it, you say, well, all right, I tell you what a left-winger has to be. They've got to be a liar because they've got to lie, and they've got to believe in lies, and they've got to base their argument on lies. They've got to be a hypocrite. And Exhibit A, Barack Obama campaigning against a black woman when the year before he was telling everybody, hey, brothers, you got to vote for the black woman. You know, that's them. Bloomberg Money Minute. My Bacardo's watch says 9:50. The Marvelettes. Murph tells us that on this date, 1961, they had the #1 hit with Please Mr. Postman. You notice we play our songs a little longer on this program because you get in the middle of the song and you want to hear more. And I can wait. I'm patient. I don't need to hear myself every minute of the program. We're going to have my friend Chris Finazzo. We were at Fort Dix together in prison, and he's going to tell his story. Maybe we'll add in a little of my mutual stories with Chris. And you could talk to him if you'd like, 570-883-0098. You know, we'll we'll make sure you're not asking anything crazy, but we'll have him talk to you. But we're going to come back with him in the next hour. And then Matt Birkbeck at the 11 o'clock hour. And then we're having our little authors roundtable without a roundtable at noon here at the studios. So we're looking forward to all of that. A great morning, special morning, and fun. And Chris is in the studio with me now. And Chris, you know what? Pull your mic to you just quickly. I haven't seen you in how many years? It seems like yesterday. And it's completely comfortable. It's like we were together at Thursday night mass or something, right?
It's uncanny when I look at you. You haven't changed at all in all these years, and it feels like I saw you last week for dinner somewhere.
Right.
But it's been years and years and years that we've seen each other.
And I've had get-togethers with Fort Dix people, and get-togethers with I was at 11 prisons, so we Schuylkill and. Allen Woods. I've done that, but we have not seen each other. It's just, it's amazing that it's so natural. But Chris, one of the things, and we'll talk about it because we're at the 10 o'clock hour, my Bacardo watch tells me. But one of the things was that you got to know somebody because you lived with them. You saw how they ate. You saw how they slept. You saw how they washed their face and shaved. And 2 weeks with someone was like 2 years you might experience with someone outside of prison.
We spent so much time together. I remember you walking around the track just all the time. I'm not sure how many miles you put in, but maybe 30 miles a day you'd walk around the track. And then one day I woke up and I was looking for you, for Bob. And he said, he's not here. I said, what do you mean he's not here? He said, he's gone somewhere else to another place. And that's the last time I saw you. It was the day before you left. And what's interesting is that some of my best friends are people I met at Fort Dix.
They've already proven themselves.
And they've already proven themselves. They're loyal. They're dedicated. They care about you and your family. They've been through everything with you. Yep. They've seen you at the lowest point in your life, possibly.
Yeah.
And now they see you back on track, and they're the people that are the most proud of your success or the success that my book is having. They're the people that reach out to me all the time, wish me a happy Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas. How is your family? It's just an amazing group of people that you've met there.
Amazing. All right, well, we're going to get into all of that and more with Chris Finazzo. His book is of Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. It's 10:02, my Bacardo watch says, and that means that we got to go to the news. We'll come back. Brian Hughes has that, and it's Chris Finazzo. Great good morning, everyone. My Ricardo Jewelers Watch says it's 10:08 and change here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Thursday, December 11, year of our Lord, 20 and 25. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our friend John Basiliga, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year, but salute today, thanks to John. Like Donald Ezrin, Clark Summit, Gabriel Socha, Scranton, Alex Qualico, Simpson, John Frabel, Weatherly, Joseph Halsisak, West Hazelton, and Raymond Trudnak of Bloomsburg. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you a sanctuary of sanity in a world that's gone mad, in a world where the entire Democrat Party, the entire establishment, our NGOs, you name it, they've all lost it, and they are out to get you, not to help you. So our commitment to common sense will provide that sanctuary of sanity. And this hour, we're featuring my old friend Chris Finazzo. He is the author of, I'm telling you, a truly neat book, Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. And by the way, I mentioned in the first hour that he is and was a very successful in the fashion industry. He was charged with turning a company called, and a lot of you would know this, I know it, and I'm not a fashion maven at all, Aeropostale. He turned it in, not single-handedly, but pretty much. He turned this company into something amazing, and Aeropostale was a must-have for so many people in fashion. And then, and we're going to get into that, all these things. And he writes a book about all this, and it's a great book. Chris Finazzo, welcome to the Bob Cordaro Show. We've had you on before, but I love having you here in person.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for inviting me to this great place. First time I've ever been in a studio before.
Oh, neat.
So it's
neat.
The last time we did it on a remote, and it was so enjoyable. My family loved. They were saying you're such a natural. My wife loves your voice, so she's like, we constantly listen to you. Eating dinner now, we listen to the delayed podcast, and she just loves your voice. So.
Oh, well, hello. What is her name?
Annie.
Annie. I should know that from the book, because why didn't you bring her?
I left the house at 4:00 this morning, so to get
where were you headed to?
In case there was snow or bad weather. You know, I
thought maybe you thought you were going to Ohio.
No, I was sitting in the McDonald's parking lot for a while, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't late or delayed or there was an accident. I wouldn't, so I got here early. So it was the time factor at 4 a.m.
You've got to bring her next time.
Next time.
We'll make sure there's a next time.
for sure.
Chris Finazzo is our guest. So Chris, let's talk about your career. You just have this increasingly successful career in the fashion industry. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I learned my trade in the Bronx. I used to own a retail store there when I was a kid at 19 years old. And then
By the way, those of you watching on the live stream, I've got one of he's starting a new line, and it is called All Time Great. And there's two shirts in here that are just gorgeous, a long sleeve, and then one of those, what's that material? It's silky.
Like a dry fit.
Yeah, the dry fit. Oh, they're awesome. And I've got the hat on. It's white, so I've got to protect this with my life from Chauncey. But I'm wearing the hat, the all-time great hat with the American flag on it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you've proven your bona fides right now in hard goods here, or soft goods, I should say.
Last night when I was preparing to come up here and getting ready to leave at 4:00, I said, the all-time great line with the American flag is perfect for Bob. It's perfect for you, the radio show. It's just the perfect scenario for people like us that love America and love sports in general. And I thought about all-time great. I realized that I was watching the Olympics, and they were talking about women in the Olympics and how dominant they were at this last Olympics for the U.S. And they kept saying all-time great, all-time great, all-time great. So I reached out to a trademark attorney, and they said, well, let's try it. And they said, you have a fair chance of getting all-time great. Never in my wildest...
You would never think it would be available.
Never thought it would be available. I thought some other company would have that. When they sent me the letter stating that we got the trademark, it took 8 months to get it, I was elated. And I immediately started working on this line. Right now, it's T-shirts, hats, and shorts. It'll be available on Shopify at the end of December. We have our own website. But it's for every... for everybody who is just, especially for young kids now, who need a jump start with themselves. They might not be the best player on the team. They mightn't be the fastest on the team, but they dedicate themselves so much to the craft. They get there early. They stay late. They practice when nobody is looking at them. That's what all-time great's about.
Yeah.
You know, and it permeates every sport, and it permeates the American flag and America being an all-time great.
You touched on something, and you don't think of it in the clothing and the fashion context. You've given your company essentially a mission statement and a reason for being before you made the clothes.
Correct. On the hang tag that's on your hat and every garment we have, it basically tells you what an all-time great is. It's not Aaron Judge, who's an all-time great, or Juan Soto's an all-time great, or Shohei Ohtani is an all-time great. It's about you as the individual.
Yeah.
You might be the smallest kid on the football team, but you're an all-time great for yourself. There's not enough positive influences out there in apparel that gives you the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not the best at this, but I'm going to try my hardest and give the team everything that I have. And that's what all-time great is.
I'm excited about it. We're going to have you on about that.
I might have to move up here.
I'd be happy with it. I
might have to move up here too.
We have houses here. All right, let's get back to your career. Did owning the retail store, how did it give you the feel for what millions of buyers would want in fashion?
Well, you know, it's one of those things that if you had 10 items in front of you, I have the ability or knack of saying those 2 are going to be good and those 8 are not good. And that's what kind of separated me in my career when I started at Macy's. I was able to put things together or see maybe the vision of where the fashion industry was going a little bit before most people, and that kind of jump-started my business. So I was at Macy's for a long time, met a lot of great people there, was offered a job at Aeropostale. Julian Geiger, who is the president of Aeropostale, really helped me in this whole process of creating Aeropostale. Together with him and a group of other people, we took a company that was fledgling company, losing money, owned by Macy's, to buying it with Bear Stearns back in 1998. It's way back when.
Yeah.
And they did an IPO, and the IPO was very successful. So Bear Stearns made about $1 billion in 1998. They made about $1 billion on the IPO on a $9 million investment. So, and $1 billion back in 1998 was real money, not now. With the evaluation, people are worth $500 billion. I don't know how that's possible, but I started it. I started the teen business. I love dealing with the preteen customer and teen, because they really set the trend for the family. You know, if you have teenage boys or girls at home, they really run the household. Yeah. The parents are basically there to help them achieve whatever goals they have. And even in their 20s, they kind of dominate, whether they're in college or anything. You really don't have any time for yourself because it's you dedicated all your time to your preteen, teens, and early, young adult kids. So we spotted a trend at Aeropostale where we put our name on the garment, and back in the day,
and nobody even knew how to say it. That's the amazing
it's
thing. It was a real quirky name.
Yeah,
that might have been part of the
Aeropostale, Aeropostale. It was
Yeah.
a brand at Macy's back in the mid to early 80s.
Yeah.
And we were able to create these freestanding stores, and it was very successful. I loved my time there. People were great. Even though I got fired from there, I don't hold any grudge against anybody at all. And then from Aeropostale, I went to work for a private equity company, Sun Capital, and I was working as a EVP for them in merchandising with a company called Anchor Blue. And for those of you who don't know Anchor Blue, they were like the quintessential West Coast company back in the day. Fell on some hard times. They went into Chapter 11 a few times, but I went there. We were able to fix it. We were able to get them back on track. And then I got a knock on my door on June 10th of 2010 from the FBI with 6 uniformed officers with machine guns and bulletproof vests.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue.
No target letter.
No, nothing. I was charged with, they wouldn't tell me what I was charged with, but I was in front of my wife who was crying, and my daughter was there, Shauna was there, and I'd fly back every week from the West Coast. I'd leave on a Thursday night, get there Friday morning. We'd have coffee, bagels, whatever, the Long Island breakfast, coffee and bagels. And I was downstairs answering a phone, a work call, and knock on the door. My daughter came down and says, "Dad, I think the FBI is there." I thought it was a joke. And I was arrested by 6 heavily armed FBI agents. But they wouldn't tell me what I was charged with.
And the saga began.
So
Chris Finazzo is our guest. His book, Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption, tells you about all of this. But we're going to keep querying with him about some details. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. We'll be back with Chris Finazzo after this. That's Cap Matthews, local artist. He's a multi-pronged artist. He does artwork, all kinds of things. But Cap Matthews, Snow on a Christmas Morning. We're going to play that every day. He sent it to me, and it got buried in my, it really buried in my emails. But yet I said, I know he sent me a song. So we got 2 local songs, Robert Michael also. And we're going to play those. Great stuff. Bob Cordaro back with you on WLK. Somebody asked if we would play Kenny Rogers' Mary Did You Know? Bulldog, now you've got to tell Murph we want to play that. I love that song. Now, I know you don't write anything down. Please write it down. Take your pause and write it down, because otherwise you'll forget and then I'll get the blame. Because, yeah, I do. I thank you for suggesting that. I love that song. Chris Finazzo is our guest. He's in studio. He's the author of Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption, just a great book that covers so much of prison. So we left off, Chris, when the FBI comes and they take you downtown, as they say. Whoa.
They took me to the federal facility in Brooklyn on some underground tunnel.
I've been there.
It's underground tunnel.
I was there, by the way, as a lawyer, and then ended up there as a prisoner. But yeah.
I was only there as a prisoner.
Yeah.
But I take you through an underground tunnel, as you know, and there's 6 people with you, and they're heavily armed, and they're armed in the car with machine guns and semi-automatic weapons and 9mm pistols. And I'm like, what did I do? And finally, somebody told me, you violated the Travel Act. Now, I traveled back and forth from California every week thinking I'm on the same flight with the same airline in the same seat. Everybody that's flight attendants all know who I am. I've been doing it for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
They say, nope, you violated the Travel Act. So I get arraigned in court on $3.5 million bail, which is just absurd. And I called my lawyer, and he happened, again, it was a holiday, not a holiday weekend, but a summer weekend in Long Island. You can't find your attorney. He's somewhere else. So I get released that day, and the judge says to me, Mr. Finazzo, you know, this is a serious crime. You violated the Travel Act. And I'm like, there's the Travel Act again. What the heck is the Travel Act? So I find out the Travel Act is a John Kennedy put it in place for his brother Bobby in the early 1960s to combat organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were illegally transporting cigarettes from North Carolina to New York, you couldn't do anything. Federal government was out of their hands. It was a North Carolina issue, and North Carolina couldn't care less where their tobacco was going as long as they were getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So he put it in place. So it was like a blanket that you throw over on a RICO crime. So basically, I was charged with mail wire fraud charges against Arapistol for...
And this is your previous employer. You're gone.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
I've been gone for a long time, almost 4 years at that time. And what they tell me is that I go to my lawyer the next day, said, this is serious. Violated the Travel Act again. That comes up again. And I finally realized that this is a serious situation. What did I do? So
it sounds silly to say that you're realizing it's a serious situation, even though you were taken in by 6 armed FBI agents. But it because it's so out of the blue, it isn't. It's slowly dawning on you. This is really serious.
So you know it's so so surreal that my family and I go out to dinner that night, and I'm like, you know, an hour ago I was in custody with the FBI, and the trial and the process lasted 4 years, and actually the time I spent in Fort Dix was less aggravating than the time I spent wondering what was going to happen to me. You know, it was just a crazy situation. But I got charged. I went to trial because I always realized that I was not guilty of what they're telling me I did. And I have to say something. I hope he's listening. But Alan Lewis from Carter Ledger, my attorney, he was so much a bulldog in my case. He said to me, there was a complete injustice done to you and your family by charging you with this crime. And he basically didn't rest until one day at the end of the book, you'll see one day I'm at Disney World with my family. My ankle bracelet is off. I get released from prison. And I'm on the
And you served
five and a half years, right?
It wasn't nothing.
Of 8 years.
Yeah.
I applied for the First Step Act, and President Trump was able to get me out earlier. And I was at home with an ankle bracelet, and that's never fun either. But at least you're home. So I get the ankle bracelet removed. I'm in Disney with my family on the Snow White ride, and you would think the Snow White ride is like a children's ride. It's a harsh ride. So if you're ever in Disney World, and go on the Snow White ride, you've got some issues. I get a text from Alan Lewis, and Alan says, "I need to talk to you." I call Alan the next day. I go see him the following Monday. This was a Thursday. And he said, "I think I have good news for you." He said, "The Supreme Court is going to rule basically that I was charged with the right to control under the Travel Act, that the right to control is not a crime." So I said to him, "Excuse me?" He said, "Yes, the right to control is not a crime, which means I will work diligently to make sure that you get your sentence vacated." So after 14 years of dealing with this craziness, in prison, out of prison, my sentence is vacated by the Eastern District of the United States. And the Supreme Court, led by Justice Thomas, wrote an unanimous opinion. It was unanimous that the right to control is not a crime. So after all this time of me fighting with the government and saying that I was not, what did I do? The Supreme Court says what you did was not a crime.
The funny part about that is, as you know, you go into prison and there are very few guilty people.
Yes.
But you were one of the people who was not actually not guilty. For whatever credit that is.
It's crazy. But when I started writing, I was at Fort Dix.
Let's get into that. We're going to take a break because now we get into the meat of his prison experience and his job as a town driver. What he experienced, when he first went in, all of those things. It's all in this book, which is just outstanding. Chris Finazzo is our guest. His book is Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with our Veterans Tribute and then Chris Finazzo. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, dutifully brought to you by our friend John Basiliga. Today featuring Basiliga Hospitality. And I'm telling you, it's the weekend, and I immediately think of all of these places, and I mean all of them, because I love them all. I don't talk about them because I get paid. I talk about them because they're good. And I have no hesitation telling you to go there, too. Bar restaurants, the Old Brook Inn, 307 Springbrook Township. Queen City Tavern, downtown Oliphant. Far Street Tavern, Trips Park section of West Scranton. I'll be at Atera this weekend, faux show. Atera 519. In fact, the Frank Sinatra event at Atera 519, celebrating his birthday Friday night. Stegmeyer Mansion. Just be transported to a different time. And I'll be at Sergei's for the same Frank Sinatra night, Friday night. The nightclub in Northeast Pennsylvania. Alex Kowalko. He was 90 when he passed away November 29th. He was from Simpson. His wife passed away, the former Carol Renchowski. She died in 2020. Born in Simpson, he was a graduate of Fell High School and served us in the Air Force. After that service, he returned to Simpson, joining his brother Michael in a milk delivery route. Later, he was employed by Farview State Hospital Waymart, where he retired from. Member of St. Basil's Russian Orthodox Church, he was a cantor and member of the choir. He's survived by nieces, a sister-in-law, cousins, a caring neighbor, Jackie Perry, and many others. Preceded in death, sadly, by 6 brothers. Alex Kowalko. John Frabel. We lost him November 23rd. He was from Weatherly. He was 94 years old. Born in Hazleton. He was a 1949 graduate of Weatherly High School, serving us honorably in the United States Army during the Korean War, rising to the rank of corporal. He retired as vice president of the Hazleton National Bank, an active member of Zion's Evangelical Lutheran Church of Weatherly. He served on the Altar Guild. He was an avid runner. He enjoyed fishing. Surviving are his beloved wife of 67 years, Jean Sachs Frabel, his son, his son's wife, cherished granddaughter, and other family members. John Frabel, our great veterans this hour, celebrated by our friend John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker today. Partly sunny and windy with snow showers, 27. It is 20. Well, Joe, you're wrong. It's 29 outside the studios right now. Tonight, partly cloudy, 15. Friday, partly sunny, 30. Saturday, partly sunny, 35. Sunday, colder with breaks of clouds and sun. A chance of flurries, 25 degrees. Bob Cordaro back on the eponymous program, and Chris Finazzo is our guest. He is the author of Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Chris, quickly, where could they get this book?
Well, right now you can buy it on Amazon in both paperback, Kindle, and hardcover. In the next 3 to 6 weeks, we'll have it available for bookstores to buy through another outlet.
Okay.
But that's not ready yet. It takes time to get everything processed and formatted. But you can hopefully buy it at some point at Barnes & Nobles and some other bookstores in the near future. But right now, Amazon.
Well, when that happens, we've got 2 future guest spots for you. All right, so Chris, you go to trial. It's got to be incredibly frustrating. You still don't quite understand what did I do, but the jury sees a very successful guy. They convict you. You're off to prison.
Correct.
Now, so you were able to self-report to prison, I take it?
Yeah, self-report. My brother-in-law, son-in-law, and son drove me. My last meal as a free man was at Denny's, because really don't know any place around Fort Dix to eat. But I was at Denny's. I checked in on a Saturday, And as you know, in the prison on Saturday, you're not supposed to check in, but nobody told me not to check in. The judge said the date was October 16th, October 14th. I checked in on the 14th. It was a Saturday. I get to the gate. They let me in. The CO says, I'm sorry, sir, there's no visiting hours today until later because we're having a problem in the yard. I said, well, I'm not here to see anybody. I'm here to check in like in a hotel.
But if you don't want me, I'll turn around.
So about an hour later, I get strip searched, which is embarrassing. They get an red-orange jumpsuit, and they put me in the shoe, solitary confinement for the weekend. I thought that's where I was going to spend the rest of my life, in the shoe. And if you've been there, it's not a fun place to be. They feed you through a door, a little hole in the door. People are screaming at night, flushing toilets. It's just a very crazy situation.
And by the way, that's in the fenced prison complex.
That's in the fenced prison complex.
I was in all of them, but yeah, separate issue.
So I get out on Monday, and I walk across the yard, and I go to the camp. I'm very nervous. And you know what happens? 2 or 3 guys greet me like I'm their old friends, and they set me up with I get a bunk. I get set up with the Catholic contingent there. Gives me a bag full of shaving stuff and creams and stuff. Made me feel great. Made me feel like, okay, this can't be that bad.
Yeah.
So I check in. You know, you have to work in prison, so it passes the time, and I think they pay you like 12 cents an hour to work. So I asked for a job, and they put me in cleaning the warden's office. So I'm cleaning the warden's office for a couple of months. One of the counselors said, the warden wants to see you. I thought there was something wrong. He said, I looked at your record. What did you do? Like, what is the travel act? Like,
somebody texted. So what actually is the travel act?
Right. What is the travel act? So I explained to him what it is, and he said, you know, not that you shouldn't be here, but you shouldn't be here. Like, this is not what. Okay. So he says, I have a job for you, and through the counselor, have a job for you as a town driver. And I said, what is a town driver? He said, well, you get a car, you get a phone, you get keys. You're on 24/7 access to the prison in case you have to drive somebody home that gets released immediately, and you could start on Monday. So I said, so I get a car, a phone, and keys, and I drive off every day. He said, yeah, you go to halfway houses, detention centers, wherever we have to send you, you're going to go, and you're going to drop off inmates. So I did that for 5.5 years. It was,
and you're broken in prison by this time. You got your buddies.
I'm broken in prison. I got my buddies.
Mass together,
I got you.
That,
we go to mass. We eat together. We make strombolis and pizza on Friday. We do have cookie night. We do all these crazy things to pass the time away, but you're not home. So I get in the car and I start driving. And the interesting thing is people would say to me, so what did you do? And I said, well, I violated the Travel Act. And they're like, no, that's not good. And then I finally said to one guy, what did you do? And the stories I got were just like mind-boggling. Like, you know, people in for manslaughter, people in for murder, people in for embezzlement, people in for selling drugs, guys who got injured on the job, who got addicted to painkillers, policemen, firemen, every kind of person that you would think of. And I'm driving them to and from the airports every day.
And you're driving not only people from the camp to these places, you're driving people who've been almost lifers, you know,
Correct.
15, 20, 25 years, and you relate that in the book.
The guy that I took, one of the stories in the book is about Benji, and Benji has been in prison for 35 years, and now they release him. But Benji has nowhere to go. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have any friends. All of his family members have passed on, and they're sending him to a homeless shelter on 32nd Street in Manhattan. And if you work in Manhattan, you know where the homeless shelter is. So he goes from having a comfortable life in prison to having no life outside of prison. So I dropped poor Benji off at the Trenton train station, and he couldn't get out of the car. He was frozen. He wouldn't get out of the car. So for about 15 minutes, I'm trying to get Benji out of the car. And all Benji has for 35 years of his life is a black garbage bag filled with a couple of clothes and some books that he's taking home. So I realized that after I was able to get Benji out of the car and look in my rearview mirror and see him standing there, I don't know what happened to Benji, but it's a shame that in with with all of the money that the prison system has, that there's not a rehabilitation program for anybody. So that if they come out after 10 years, 5 years, we're a little different. We have family support, et cetera. But guys come out of prison, they have no family support. Now, I've driven home pedophiles. I've driven home child molesters, people that you would never want to be associated with.
Mm-hmm.
So I came home one day after dealing with Benji, and I said, I have to write this down. I wrote it down in a book, in a piece of paper, and I wrote every day, if the story was interesting, I would write a story about the town driver, the town driver, meeting all these people and telling and writing down their stories. So when I came home, I went to lunch with a friend of mine, and he said, and my son, Tony, and he said, Dad, why don't you tell Robert some of the stories that you have? They're really interesting. So I started to tell him. He said, you should write a book.
Yeah.
So I started writing this manuscript book. I'm not a writer, but I've had help. C.R. Montoya, who's a friend of mine, edited the book. Nasima Sharma helped me write the book and format it. And then one day I had a book. One day I had a book, Reflections of the Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. And the redemption part is my sentence was vacated.
Yeah.
After all this time that I spent, my sentence was vacated.
It's time, money, embarrassment, going from a pinnacle as an executive to prisoner number whatever.
You feel like a complete failure in your life, that you let your family down and your friends down and everybody that supported you all those years down. But deep down inside, I knew that what I did was not a crime. It was never explained properly.
We've got to take a break. Bloomberg Money Minute. We're a little bit over, but we'll get back with Chris Finauza to wrap up. Bob Seger. Murph says he released his hit album Night Moves this date, 1976. Could you believe it's that long ago? Oh, Lord. Hey, Mother Teresa, I don't want to forget because I will. Well, no, I'll do it next hour. We have to do our Mother Teresa. But Chris Finazzo, it's such a pleasure having you here. I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to have at noon in the event space. You know, I got to tell you, Chris, the day you came in, you could just tell you were a good guy. Talking to you, you knew you were a capable guy. And I know, never asked anyone, well, how'd you get here? If they wanted to tell me, they told me. And sometimes I knew about your background. And I got to tell you, I'm so pleased that this really corrupt prosecution got overturned, even though it was too late to save you from this experience. But we got the book out of it.
We got the book out of it. And I hope the book helps a lot of people understand the prison system. You know, I was thinking about, if the book is successful, setting up some kind of, not a company, but some kind of foundation to help prisoners when they come out who have nowhere to go and nothing to do and never trained. That's the problem. There's no training in the prison system. Guys like us that have skills and, again, have families to fall back on, we kind of assimilate to our environment and we become successful again. But there are thousands of people out there that just don't have that opportunity.
And I was with guys, they'd be 2-3 weeks out from their release date, long-termers, and they would do something to stay.
Mm-hmm.
They realized how bleak the future was going to be for them on the outside.
There's nothing for them. And then what happens is that if you had a case in New York City and you want to go to Ohio, they send you back to New York City. So you're back in the same neighborhood that you started, or the problem happened, and you don't have a chance of survival.
You described the one guy who there was hits out.
Right. You know, it just it doesn't make any sense. But the town driver. I have 100 other stories. I hope that there's a sequel to it if the book does well. But it really helped me understand the process. I feel so much better. Rather than going to a therapist, I wrote a book, and the book is my therapy.
Well, my Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 11 o'clock. Hey, trunk sale today at Picardo's. I'm going to stop by this afternoon. Refreshments, all kinds of vendors, everything else. It's the day to Christmas shop at Picardo's. Chris Finazzo, thank you so much, and I look forward to our discussion at noon. We appreciate it.
Bob, thank you so much for inviting me. It really means a lot to me.
So good to see you.
Same
it
here.
really warms my heart.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break for the news, and we'll be back with Matt Birkbeck. Chris and I are amateur authors. Here's a real writer. We'll be back. You know it, Levon. Great good morning, everyone. My Bacardo's Jeweler watch tells me it's 11:07 and change here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Thursday, December 11, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year, but salute today, thanks to John. Like John Frabel, Weatherly, Alex Kowalico, Simpson, Donald Ezrin, Clark Summit, Gabriel Socha, Scranton, Joseph Halsisak, West Hazelton, and Raymond Trudnak, Bloomsburg. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's program and battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you for the balance of the morning. We're in. We're in. They are all insane. It's not you. I promise you. You're not saying, did they say what? No, it's not you. They've gone insane, and we're here to straighten that all out. Somebody texted in about Chris Finazzo's appearance. He says, so after 14 years, he still doesn't know what he actually did. I mean, I would believe it. It just goes to show how screwed our system really is. It's this. If they want you, and I lived it, so I could relate it. If they want you, they get you. And the short version, you'll read it in his book, the short version is that somebody got in trouble in his old company and used him to get out of it and to be the fall guy. And he was. But great guy, good man to know. Just, super, super person. Hey, let's do Mother Teresa for December 11th, St. Teresa. She says, come, O blessed spirit of knowledge and light, and grant that I may perceive the will of the Father. Show me the nothingness of earthly things, that I may realize their vanity and use them only for your glory and my own salvation, looking ever beyond them to you and your eternal reward. Mother Teresa, St. Teresa for today. Thank you, Mary Regina, for sending that in. Well, we're joined by a guy I had on my TV show, and I got to tell you, I urge you to go to YouTube. You look for the Bob Cordaro Show on TV, and there's the episode with Matt Birkbeck, and he had a book that was his big book at the time was The Life We Chose about Billy D'Elia, local mafia guy. And he had previously done The Quiet Don, focusing on Russell Buffalino, the national mafia don from this area. And we talked to him about a month or so ago about The Wicked, his first novel. Now he's written tons of books, and we'll go into that a little bit. But The Wicked is out now. And it's a murder mystery set in Jim Thorpe, PA. Most of you have been there. Many of you have been there anyway. And he's with us now. Matt Birkbeck, welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Chris Finazzo and I were saying, if I was to write a book and his book, he says, we're amateur writers. I said, well, we'll seed our way to the pros. Matt Birkbeck, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be really a prolific author.
I actually, we discussed this briefly before. I started in radio many years ago, actually when I was in college in New York, and I worked for a radio station called WNEW, an AM and an FM side. And at that time, in the early 80s, it was just, radio at that time was just remarkable.
Yeah.
I was a desk assistant. I was a news assistant. So I always wanted to be in the news business in some way. Originally, I thought TV, and then I went to print, and that's where I actually took off. But in radio, it was, we had three of me running around getting copy, and we used to have to do what was called, kids today wouldn't even know about this, but it's called cut tape, where, you'd record it, but it would come in at the last minute, last second, the newscaster would be on air, and we get this report, have to get it, cut it, put it on a cart, and run it in, and they get it on, and they get pretty mad at you if you didn't get it done. So you tried to get it to
There's
them.
a little intensity.
Yeah,
there,
but it was great because I wrote sports, I wrote news, I learned the whole thing. I worked with some incredible people to start out, and then I went into print. It was just, I had a job. I lost a job, and then a friend of mine asked me if I want to go work at Rolling Stone magazine as a fact checker. And I'm thinking, fact checking?
They could have used you recently.
Yeah, a lot of publications could.
Yeah.
It's a different world today.
Yeah.
But I said fact checker, and I did it. And I ended up staying there for a few years there in another magazine, Entertainment Weekly. But it actually turned out to be a really great experience because it just teaches you how to really bear down and edit and make sure all the facts are correct. And then I ended up living in Pennsylvania. One day my wife and I are in New York living, and then we decide we're gonna, move to
Alan's on Morning Call.
northeastern PA. I actually worked for the Pocono Record.
Oh, really?
I was commuting. I was commuting to my magazine jobs in the city, and that was a disaster. It was just way too long. My son was only 9 months old at the time, but I just did. It was so I took a job. I was writing for People magazine though. I was working, so it was kind of really weird. I have a very weird, not necessarily a straightforward career path. I was working for the local paper covering county courts in Monroe County and other stuff, and doing a column at the Pocono Record, which was a really, really good local paper back in the day. But also, I was doing these national stories for People magazine. I get a call from my New York bureau chief, and she said, "I need you to go to Boston or go here or go there." We covered the entire Northeast. And I did that for 6 years, too. So I was doing both, and then I ended up at the Morning Call. But my experience at People magazine actually led me to my very first book. I covered the Robert Durst case in 2000, and he's the New York real estate heir who we know publicly killed 3 people. I know privately he killed many, many more.
Yeah.
But that was my first book, and came out.
What spurred you? Was it People magazine?
Yeah, she called me and said, "You want to cover? I need you to go to Westchester County and go, cover." The New York Times had run the New York Times and the New York Daily News ran the first stories about Durst, and that they were investigating him for the disappearance and possible murder of his first wife, Kathy, who disappeared 20 years earlier in 1982.
Which, by the way, the gravity of it, in particularly in New York City, this is one of the founding real estate families of New York City.
Incredible.
Huge. And to have not just a sexual scandal or a divorce, this is a murder that we're talking about.
Yes. And then as I came to learn over the years, the family actually took part in the cover-up of she was murdered, of the murder and protecting him. But what no one realized is this guy's a serial killer. Or actually the family did know it, and they still protected him. So I ended up I did the book, and then I did some magazine pieces on it. It was called The Deadly Secret. And then I did some magazine pieces for Reader's Digest, and I did another one. I don't remember which one it was. But and then I continued to cover the case. Oh, and then my my bureau chief in New York said, "Hey, you ever think of doing a book?" I was like, "Yeah, actually, I did." And she goes, "Well, why don't you go talk to my agent?" And she introduced me to him, and we ended up getting a deal for A Deadly Secret. And it came out. It was Penguin that published it.
Is it still in print?
Oh yeah, it came out again.
Deadly Secret.
It was actually re-released.
It's a timeless story.
Yes, and there's another chapter to it that I'm going to eventually get to that's even more stunning than everything else that we have ever seen or read about Durst. But it came out again in 2015. I don't know if you recall, HBO did The Jinx.
Which we didn't get HBO in prison.
Which was a big okay. Well, it was a big hit at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily accurate, but it was a big hit at the time. But I had always maintained, I had found out that he was, in fact, he very well could have been a serial killer. Because when I went down to Galveston, Texas to go cover this, because he had hacked up a guy down there, when I went to do the book, the agent said to me, "We need to wait for an arrest before we can actually get a contract." And I said, "Fine." A year later, he got arrested for dismembering a guy in Galveston, Texas, Morris Black. I go down to Galveston. I'm sitting with the cops down there who are investigating, and they said to me, and this is what got me really into this case, they said to me that, because this guy Morris Black got chopped up around the arms, the legs, and whatnot, head. They took his head which was never found. But they said whoever dismembered Morris Black knew what he was doing, the precision of it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they know that Durst did this. So you just don't do that. You have to have practice doing that.
Yeah.
Right. And it took I'm connecting him to disappearances in California, two missing girls in California, connecting him to missing women in New York. And no one was really buying it. They were focused on this one particular story, that he's just this rich guy who killed a few people, and that was it. And so I wrote about the missing girls from California in my first book on Durst, and then wrote a couple of other things later on and put it in the 2015 edition that came out after the Jinx. But the guy Andrew Jarecki, who directed the Jinx and who was in the Jinx, actually, he and I had a kind of a weird relationship. But he actually called me after the Jinx aired, and it was this national sensation. He didn't buy that he was a serial killer, but he actually called me to say, Matt, you were right. He is a serial killer.
Matt Birkbeck is our guest. His latest is The Wicked, his first novel. And I got to tell you, you got to go and look him up and buy all of his books. They're that good. Your story on Durst, just for example, The Quiet Dawn, the Life We Chose, they read like novels. And that's why your novel's so great. Did you ever, this is an immensely powerful family, immensely wealthy, to cover up a mass murderer and to have the power to do it and have people reticent to get involved. And you're in the middle of the soup beyond anybody else. Did you ever hear footsteps?
Actually, it's interesting because when he was arrested in 2003, he was on the run after killing this guy, Morris Black. And he was on the run for 6 weeks. I get a phone call from one of the witnesses, one of Kathy Durst's friends, the woman that disappeared, and she calls me and she's hysterical. And she goes, they got him. And I said, they got who? She goes, they got Durst. I said, they did? I said, where? She goes, in Pennsylvania. I said, Pennsylvania? I said, where? She goes, in Bath. I'm thinking, Bath? I know Bath, but I wasn't registering where Bath was. And then it did. I'm like, wait, I live 20 minutes from there.
Wow.
As it turned out, though, so the initial thought was, was he, because I had been writing these stories about him potentially being a serial killer.
And you pulled no punches in all of your writing.
No, because it really laid bare, the book laid bare the politics of it, what happened. Jeanine Pirro, who's now, the U.S. Attorney in Washington, she was the DA in Washington, in Westchester County. And politics aside, she did a terrible job with the Durst case.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really all about publicity for her. And I got into that pretty deeply. So I thought for a second, wait a minute, that's a little too close. What's he doing in Bath? Turns out he went to school at Lehigh. So he was familiar with the area and he was kind of hiding out, but he shaved his head, he shaved his eyebrows. He got caught. He got caught at a Wegmans. Here's a guy who's almost a billionaire. He gets caught stealing a $7 chicken salad sandwich. And then they find, the security finds $40,000 in his car and a gun. And
how was it? Who was feeding him money?
He had a trust, but what he did was, which was really smart, was when news of this new investigation into the disappearance of Kathy Durst was public, he married a woman, this woman, Derry Sheridan. So basically, as his wife, which is what happened, she could bail him out. So she bailed him out of Texas. She could help him get money. She could do it. He had someone on the side. So, but he had other help too. He had some friends. It's a really complex story. It's a really terrible story. As I said, I've covered it, but there's another chapter to this story that's far more explosive than anything else that's been written. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to do it next year. So that's,
And
to be a...
This was your first book.
Yes.
And you said, I could do this.
I did, because I did another book 2 years later, A Beautiful Child. And that's when I quit my newspaper job. I'd asked for, at the Pocono Record, I really wanted to do this book, and I asked my editor for some time off. And I went to Human Resources first. I said, hey, I need some time off to do a book. They said, how much time you need? I don't know, 6. And they go, 6 months? I said, no, 6 weeks. So I had to travel. I had to go travel throughout the country. They go, oh, yeah, go ahead. My editor wouldn't let me do it, though, for whatever reason. And I had just been doing these big ticket real estate investigative stories, real estate fraud in the Poconos, for instance, and whatnot, involving all the banks. So I just left. I said, you know what, I'm going to quit. I still had the People magazine thing going. I was writing for the New York Times and Philadelphia Inquirer magazine at the time. So I felt comfortable enough, until I realized that I had to pay more than my mortgage for health insurance. So it was tough, but it turned out that book, A Beautiful Child, and then later I did a sequel, Finding Sharon, in 2018. They both became the basis for my movie on Netflix, Girl in the Picture, which came out 3 years ago. So, stories, really good stories, if you could do them right, they resonate.
Yeah.
And then years later, when you finally get some resolution to the story. This is another one that didn't have an ending, which is another reason why I wrote The Wicked, because I wanted to have a killer ending. I didn't have an ending with Durst because no one knew.
Novels have endings.
Yes, and and A Beautiful Child didn't have an ending, but anyway, so years later it became this big international phenomenon, which was Girl in the Picture on Netflix.
Neat. Matt Birkbeck is our guest. His latest is The Wicked, a murder mystery set in Jim Thorpe, PA. We're going to take a break. Bob Cordaro is the host. Matt Birkbeck is the guest. We'll be back. Paul McCartney. Murph says that this date, 1979, he was on the charts with his song Wonderful Christmas Time. And we're back with Matt Birkbeck. His latest is The Wicked, a murder mystery set in Jim Thorpe, PA. It's become a trite phrase, a page turner. It really is. You want to read it till the end. He's got another story coming out, another book coming out, The Bookie. That's in January. He's written. Somebody texted in to ask Matt if he ever did anything on Santo Volpe of Pittston. He did. He's in both of his mob books about Northeast Pennsylvania. The Life We Chose, he's in that. He's also in The Quiet Dawn. Santo Volpe is recognized. You find your way from the Poconos into sort of the heart of the population here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And you've had this great success of movie, the whole bit. How do you arrive at the story of The Quiet Dawn, Russell Buffalino?
So that was when I returned to newspapers in 2004. I think I mentioned earlier, cost of health insurance back, which today is a disaster.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good back then. Anyway, so I had a wife, 2 small kids. My wife was home. I was freelancing. I was doing all my other stuff, in the books and everything. But it is, I don't know. I come from, I was raised in Brooklyn. And my father was a cop, and I grew up in an area where it was all, father was either a cop or a fireman or a sanitation worker, and then we had a couple of mob guys here and there.
Yeah.
And they always drilled into your head about you have to have benefits, always. So no matter what I was doing, I always thought about it, and then just from having, I needed it anyway. I didn't want to keep paying the kind of money I was paying on it, so I went back to newspapers. Long story short. I went to the Morning Call, and I started digging into the whole casino thing. And that's when I covered Louis de Naples and Mount Airy and the corruption that involved the state legislature and the state Supreme Court in giving out these gaming licenses, not just to de Naples, but to several others who were all looking at it. And, I also read about Ed Rendell and how his involvement in it. But it was through that I got into the Buffalino family, because of the Naples association with them. But I didn't realize it was as deep as it was. And I found out really how deep it was in doing the later book, The Life We Chose, with Billy D'Elia. But then that's when I did the deep dive on the Buffalinos. And I could not believe how powerful Russell Buffalino was.
Yeah.
I mean, I maintain today he was arguably the most important organized crime figure in the history of the United States. He wasn't just a local mob boss. He was national.
Yeah.
He knew everybody. Everybody came to him.
He was almost above the commission.
He was. I wrote that. I was told that he was. I was told he wasn't. He was never a member of the commission. He was above the commission in that whenever there was a big decision to make, they would go to him for guidance.
Almost their consigliere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But Russell, when I found out that he had been recruited by the CIA to help with the Bay of Pigs invasion, and that he was on a boat. And this story was confirmed by Billy D'Elia. It was remarkable. And Billy said he used to joke about it because the story was the CIA learned that Russell left behind almost $1 million in Cuba. He wanted the money back. They said, you know what, help us with the invasion of Cuba, and you'll get your money back. And, of course, we know what the result of that story was.
Yeah.
But they used to joke with Russell, Billy said, over at Medico where they had an office. And, hey, Russ, when are we going back for your money? Stuff like that. And, so that was a remarkable story. But to think that he was incredibly influential with the Teamsters Union.
Yeah.
Him and Jimmy Hoffa were friends going back to the mid-1940s when they first met. He placed his cousin William with the Teamsters, and he became their counsel, their senior lawyer. So he's got ties to the Teamsters pension fund. He's got ties to the government, politicians, the battles with Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy hated him, wanted to go to lunch with him. And I can't say it on air, but, Russell had some choice words for him about going to lunch. But he was just, he was just this incredibly influential guy. And which really interested me because it's this whole, the world isn't, as a reporter, you sometimes see the world as black and white, and I think you can understand this too. It's not. It's very gray.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray area. And, there's this underworld, so to speak, not organized crime underworld, but just where things really happen, where the machine, knobs are and the levers are pulled and things like that. As we were talking about the Durst family, they had their whole gray area too, where they were able to get things done. And so, Russell, boxing and the different fighters he was involved with, and some of these fights were fixed and big fights too. He was just involved in everything. So that's how I just started writing about it. And then I really covered the Naples case. I covered the Naples only because
we got to take a break real quick. Matt Birkbeck, I got to tell you too, the book, The Quiet Don, it got me a lot of cred in a number of prisons, by the way, because they knew I knew all of these people.
Glad to have helped.
You actually did. I didn't know you, but you helped. We've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We're going to hear from our great sponsors, Veterans Tribute, and then we'll be back with Matt Birkbeck. His latest is The Wicked, but every one of his books is outstanding. You got to look him up. We'll take a break and be back. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by our man, John Basiliga. And as we head into the weekend, we think Basiliga hospitality, like the fine dining like you will not experience anywhere. Atera 519, downtown Scranton. Big Sinatra event at Atera and the Sergei's Live, the nightclub on Friday night. My man, Chris DiMatteo, and other performers. The Stegmeyer Mansion, downtown Wilkes-Barre, Gilded Age Mansion, and you get to dine the best food and drinks as good as you could get. 3-bar restaurants, Old Brook Inn, 307 Springbrook Township, Far Street Tavern, the Trips Park section of West Scranton, and the Queen City Tavern, downtown Oliphant. All awesome. You want to see a movie this weekend? Voted the best movie house in Northeast Pennsylvania, the Scranton Art House, Lackawanna Avenue, downtown. Joseph Halsasak. He was 82 when we lost him December 1st. He was from West Hazleton. Born in Hazleton. Also lived in Hazel Township. He was a devoted family man who cherished his loving wife of 58 years, Rosalie. Dedicated father to his 4 sons, who were the center of his life. Joe worked as a supervisor at PPL, retiring after 35 years of dedicated service. A Navy veteran, he proudly served this country with that great branch and was a member of the Good Shepherd Roman Catholic Church drums and the Knights of Columbus. He was also a barbershop singer. He was deeply involved in his community, 50 years to coaching various youth sports, and also involved as a cub master in West Hazleton. Loved golf, woodworking, ready to lend his hand and talents to anyone. Surviving her his loving wife, Rosalie, his 4 sons, 9 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. Joseph Halsasak. Raymond Trudnak. He was 93 when he passed November 23rd at his home in Bloomsburg. Born in Mackinac, he lived most of his life in Bloomsburg, a 1950 graduate of Bloomsburg High School. Started his career as a lineman, becoming a journeyman lineman within a year by using the electrical skills he learned from his father and pole climbing tactics he learned from his brother Ed. In 1953, enlisted in the U.S. Army Security Agency and was stationed in Germany until his honorable discharge in 56. He then went on using the GI Bill to enroll at Bloomsburg State Teachers College, where he met the love of his life, June Locke. They enjoyed a marriage that lasted more than 67 years. Raymond received his BS at Bloomsburg State Teachers College and used his GI Bill to further his education at Bucknell, receiving an MS in education. 1970, he joined the faculty at Central Columbia High School. Then he was a high school English teacher. During his 28 years of teaching, Raymond developed new courses to help students prepare for college. Life member of the Berwick Elks, an active member of the Berwick Gold Club for more than 50 states and all 7 continents. Preceded in death by his parents, his brothers, and other family members, his wife June, his daughter, his granddaughter, and many other families survive him. Raymond Trudnak. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by our man, John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, partly sunny and windy with snow showers, high of 27. Well, Joe, we're a little warmer than that. It's 30. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 15. Friday, partly sunny, high 30. Saturday, partly sunny, high 35. Sunday, colder with breaks of clouds and sun and a chance of flurries, high 25. That's your weather. So, Matt Birkbeck, he had to duck out for to help set up. We have an event from 12 to 1 with Matt and Chris Finazzo. For some of our listeners have been able to break off of their busy schedules and come into the event space we have here at the broadcast center. And Matt will be joining us for that from 12 to 1, but he's with us here now. So you do the Quiet Dawn, and then what calls you to follow up with The Life We Chose?
That was Billy D'Elia. I got an email. It was 2020. We're in the middle of COVID, I think it was in August 2020, and I think I was sitting watching golf, and I get this email, and it was from an associate of his, and it said, "Hey, would you be interested in speaking with Billy DeLee?" And I'm like, I almost, like rocketed out of my seat, out of my chair, and because Billy, I covered Billy during, his arrest, the whole casino thing. Was he going to testify or not? Um, he had been charged with there was some charges, money laundering and whatnot that they got him on, and they wanted to use him to get to Louis de Naples, and so I covered that whole thing, and but I never spoke to him, but I knew how important he was.
Mm-hmm.
But he never spoke to anybody. When I did eventually meet him, I said sure, and we met like a month later, and he never spoken to anyone before, not much less a media person, but he wouldn't even talk to the to law enforcement, FBI or whatnot. In prison, they wanted to know particularly about Jimmy Hoffa. I figured that Billy knew something about what happened with Hoffa with his disappearance, and he shares some really interesting stories on that in the book. But I ended up meeting Billy. Was upset over a couple of things, one of which was the portrayal of Russell in The Irishman, the Netflix movie, by Joe Pesci. He said it wasn't even close to being Russell. Completely off. Facts were off. He knew Frank Sheeran really well, which we get into the book, into the life we chose. And he wanted to share other information about himself, in that he never, quote unquote, ratted on anybody. The government already had certain information in their possession that they already knew, and he got called before a grand jury on the Naples in 2006, I think it was, 2007 or 2007, and he basically just had to confirm information that was put in front of him that they already had. So that bothered him too. It took a few months for him and I to kind of, reach that moment where we felt comfortable with each other. But we eventually did, and he was great. I mean, he was a really easy guy to talk to. I could see he was a very successful guy. And we ended up speaking for like 2 years, and we still talk to this day. But he was involved. The book itself is amazing. He showed me a picture of him with Michael Jackson, and tells me how he became his manager, which is a remarkable story.
Yeah.
So, but in any event, what Billy also did was he added, the book is historical, actually. It adds to what we have on Russell Buffalino, what we know about Russell. Because Russell's got to be, in addition to being one of the most important organized crime figures in the history of the country, he's also one of the most mysterious. He's not from New York, so people don't really want to know about him. They want to know about the New York families. They should have really dug into his family.
Yeah.
Because
did he come to your book signings here?
Billy?
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
actually, I didn't even tell him about him. I don't think he was happy with me, but no, he would have. I didn't, because it was for The Wicked.
No, I mean, but you had a book signing. Didn't you have a book signing for his book? For this book?
No, it was for The Wicked.
Oh,
like
okay. the recent one.
Yes, the two Barnes and Nobles signings were for The Wicked, but they also sold.
Oh, okay.
What happens is when you go on tour and do a book signing, if you're in an area where a book is particularly popular, like if I was in New York and I had, which I will be, and I got the Wicked, they're going to bring out the Durst book.
Yeah.
Like Barnes and Nobles will, because it's a New York story. Because I was in Wilkes-Barre in Dixon City, they brought out The Life We Chose and The Quiet Dawn because it's a local book and popular.
Okay.
And to this day, both those books still sell pretty well up here. Somebody
texted in. They said, "Wow, he mentions the Naples, and Bob goes to commercial break immediately. I have to do commercials." What? I was telling Chris Fanauza this before. I said this 50 minutes or whatever that we have is gonna fly. And we do have to run our commercials. I did kind of ramble a little bit, though, on that. But what I was trying to say with the Naples, just to clear it up, I got into his story because everyone knows who Louis de Naples is, billionaire and whatnot, and the connections he had. Billy clarifies those connections to Buffalino in The Life We Chose. But, de Naples was my entree into the Buffalino story. And then my focus went away from covering de Naples for the Morning Call
in his situation
With the
to
casino, yeah.
covering and the casino thing was a really important thing back then. And then to the bigger story of Russell Buffalino and what Russell Buffalino meant and what the history of there was really nothing on the record about Buffalino.
Yeah.
If you look him up, it's it's just
How did the two titles you have now? I'm assuming The Life We Chose comes from Billy D'Elia himself. Or
close
no?
family
Okay.
member, a daughter.
Okay.
It was actually she.
What a great title.
It is. We were thinking of a couple of other titles, but you know when it's not really working. And then his daughter came up with that, and my first thought was, maybe. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, that's brilliant. Because as you read in the book, he did choose that life.
Yeah, yeah. And The Quiet Don was what a title.
Well, that's what they called him. I mean, he didn't say anything to people either. I have some video of him testifying in 1982 before the Pennsylvania Crime Commission, I think it is. And he's actually pretty funny in how he's talking to these guys. But it's just that, I don't know nothing. I don't remember anything. When did you meet Jimmy Hoffa? Oh, I don't know. It was sometime years ago. I don't exactly know when it was. But that's how those guys operated. There's a guy that lives up here that was in the Crime Commission that was an investigator, Jim Canavi, and he told me a great story about Buffalino. Could be the nicest guy. He was riding in a car with him, and I think Buffalino had handcuffs on. He came to testify, and he said, in the one sense, he's talking to you like grandfather, nice and simple and whatnot, but you also know that in a second, he'll slash your throat. And that's what these guys, that was the way that these guys live. So
amazing stuff. We have to take a break because it's time for Bloomberg Minute. Yes, we have to do commercials no matter what the subject is. We're going to do that because my Cordaro Jeweler watch tells me we're heading up to 11:50. And then we'll come back and wrap it up with Mac Burkbeck, his latest. It's his first novel, and it is amazing. The Wicked. You got to read this in addition to all the other books we're talking about. We'll be back. Well, we finish with Hallelujah. Morgan Miles, live at the Grand Ole Opry. We'll be finishing with that, until Hanukkah. Then we're going to finish with the Hanukkah song, which I don't know, just gets me in the Christmas spirit, oddly enough. Hanukkah starting Sunday. But Matt Birkbeck is our guest, and he's going to do a little authors forum after this. You can't call it a round table because we don't have a round table. So it's an authors forum with he and Chris Finazzo, who we had on in the 10 o'clock hour. The Wicked is his latest, his first novel. And I got to tell you, Matt Birkbeck, it doesn't seem like a first novel. It's just polished, smooth. You mentioned to me, it might have been off air, but you said the great thing about a novel is it finishes, it ends.
This one does, yeah. My first two books, I didn't have an ending for Robert Durst. I didn't have an ending for A Beautiful Child. These were stories, continuing stories that I got in early on. And I always said to myself, I want to do a book that ends with the very last sentence.
Yeah.
And when I was at the morning call, I had covered Jim Thorpe when I first started there. And I said, what a great town, and had a great history with the mining and the Molly Maguires. And I said, man, it took me a long time to get the story together, but I think particularly with the ending, I was able to nail it. So the book's, it's gotten some really good reviews. I'm really happy with it. It's a different kind of thing for me in terms of especially promoting it. Nonfiction, you do your interviews, you do your TV, your print, done. This, you continue on for weeks and whatnot. So
fabulous. Well, Matt, thank you for coming on air. We look forward to this forum with you starting in just a few minutes. Well, that's it for us here, guys. We run out of time, and we run out of time much quicker than we'd like most days. Sue Henry show next. Rob O'Donnell show after that. But for now, I've got to say adios and gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, reminding you of the veterans we paid tribute to today who we lost this year. Joseph Halsisak, West Hazelton, John Frabel, Weatherly, Alex Kowalico, Simpson, Donald Ezrin, Clark Summit, Gabriel Socha, Scranton, and Raymond Trudnak, Bloomsburg. Thanks to John Basiliga for getting all of these great people mentioned. And thanks to Chris Finazzo and Matt Birkbeck for being with us and for the next hour in our event space here. But God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow morning. Have a great afternoon. I hope I see you in the morning.